the Attorney General was very gracious to make a video for us, and we're having issues with getting the audio up. So we'll maybe have it for the end of the presentation. So let's start all over. Welcome to the third and fourth judicial districts, third and fourth judicial districts Gender Fairness Committee's program on pioneering Black women attorney and judges of the Capital Region. I'm Lisa Fisher. I'm a justice of the Appellate Division, Third Department, and I am the Gender Fairness Committee chairperson for the Third Judicial District. In conjunction with the Gender Fairness Committee of the Fourth Judicial District, which is chaired by the Honorable Tatiana Coffinger, we are excited to present a program that I don't think has ever been done in this region. We are going to explore the experiences, both past and present, of Black women judges and attorneys. We have an incredible lineup of two panels, one of judges and another of practitioners. I'll be introducing the panel members in a moment. I'd like to invite the Third Judicial District's Administrative Judge, the Honorable Judge Connolly, and the Albany Law School Dean, Cinnamon Carlisle, to say a few words. Our Fourth Judicial District Administrative Judge, who was recently appointed, Chris Singh, was intending to join us, but he had other commitments at the last minute. Dean, I know this is your house, and I'd like you to start, but before you come up, I want to say a couple words, which are probably of no surprise to you. You have an incredible team here at Albany Law School. I'd like to start with one of your shining stars, your 3L student, Brianna Wagner. Brianna is the co-chair of the Women's Law Caucus here. I met her last year at a women's networking event, and she really is a wonderful asset here. She has helped in every way and everything we've asked her to do. You've always done it with a smile. You've been very gracious, and we couldn't have put this all together here at the law school without you. You really are a shining star, and you're going places, Brianna, and we look forward to watching you rise. There are also some behind-the-scene folks here at Albany Law that I would like to recognize. John Collins from the Administrative Services and the entire staff of the Office of Alumni Engagement. That includes Jeff Sieber, Megan Goff, Tom Torello, and Laura Manow. Dean Carlisle, would you like to say some words?
Hi, everyone. I have to say Brianna is amazing, a true star. So, and everybody else as well. We have a fantastic community here. So good afternoon. What an honor and a privilege it is to be here with you today and to get to welcome this really remarkable group of speakers and this remarkable audience, both in person and online, here at Albany Law School. We're truly honored to get to host this event. I want to start off by thanking the members of the Gender Fairness Committee of the Third and Fourth Judicial District and everyone else who helped create this event and brought together such an amazing group of speakers and pioneers. Often when we think of pioneers, we're not imagining people of our own generation or younger. Yet the reality is that most of our speakers today, all pioneers in their own right, and many the first to hold positions in our community, graduated from law school in the 21st century. While it's wonderful, of course, to see and celebrate the emergence of these talented, hardworking and intelligent and very courageous women, we also, of course, need to ask ourselves today and always, why has it taken so long? And really more importantly, in thinking about the mission of the law school too, how can we do more and do better to create conditions for our students, our graduates, and our community to thrive and to follow in the footsteps of these exceptional panelists today? This is work that Albany Law School as a community is deeply committed to, and I look forward to advancing together with many of you here today. I also want to pause to celebrate some of our pioneers who can't be with us here today. Many of them, of course, but we would be remiss if we didn't recognize at least a couple of them. A couple of early trailblazers, such as Gloria Arthur, the first Black woman to make a partner in an Albany law firm, and Barbara Cottrell, a groundbreaking federal prosecutor in Albany in the 80s. I'm proud to say that they, like many of our speakers here today, graduated from Albany Law School in 1985 and 1984, respectively. All of these women, present and not present, have overcome tremendous odds and push through structural and systemic barriers to achieve what they have and what they continue to do on a daily basis. And I know that many of the students who are here today will appreciate all of the guidance and the wisdom that they share, as well as all the rest of us as well. So I just want to say thank you again to the organizers of this incredibly important event, and thank you for having it here in Albany Law School and letting us be a part of it. And a huge thanks and appreciation to all of the pioneering women here today and in the audience for making time to speak with us and share and just be in community. We're really thrilled to have you here and to be part of this celebration. And so now I'll turn the floor over. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean. So I'm well aware we're not here to hear me speak, so I will be brief, I promise you. I just wanted to give the thanks of the third judicial district, as well as the fourth judicial district. Chris Singh, who is the administrative judge of the fourth, as Justice Fisher just said, has an emergency with his facilities, which happens all the time in our judicial districts, and he had to stop and address those. But we want to thank Albany Law and the gender fairness committees from both districts for their hard work in putting together this great program. I will be brief. I want to thank Justice Fisher in particular for her hard work on this. And I do want to recognize a couple of people who are here with us today. My friend Rich Rivera, who is the statewide coordinating judge for the family courts, recently appointed to that position, and a justice of the Supreme Court here in the third judicial district. Our presiding judge of the Court of Claims, Dick Seiss, another proud Albany Law alum, and our Associate Justice Christine Clark, of also of the Appellate Division, third department. So I wanted to thank all of them. I'm finishing up now. I just want to say one more thing. I want to congratulate Judge Ryba, I'm sorry, for her recent promotion, a recent appointment to the position of statewide co-chair of the Permanent Commission on Access to Justice for the courts of the state of New York. I know her energy, it matches Justice Fisher's, and will be amazing for all of us. And I know we can have some pilot programs, I hope, in the third, not the fourth, the third. And finally, you know, our judicial panel, all of whom I know well as our moderator, my boss, Judge Mendelson. You know, they've never shared this with me, but I've been around and I've seen things, and I can't help thinking, that at some point in all of their lives, somebody probably, looked at them and either in words or by implication, implied that they might want to scale back those ambitions a little bit. And I can't help but thinking, knowing all of them, that in their minds, they probably thought, we'll see about that. And now we have. So I really thank you for this, and we're very lucky to hear from all of you. And welcome to the attorneys.
Thank you for all your support as well. It is a special treat for me to introduce our moderator and someone I like to call my friend, the Honorable Edwina Richardson. I met her several years ago at a New York chapter Association of Women Judges conference, and she had a lot of energy then, and she has a lot of energy now. Judge Richardson is a pioneer, not to mention a dynamo herself. She is the Deputy Chief Administrative Judge for Justice Initiatives for the state of New York. She leads the Office of Justice Initiatives, which is tasked with ensuring meaningful access to justice for all New Yorkers in not only civil, criminal, but also family court matters. As you can imagine, she is very busy. So I'm really honored that I cashed in this favor and that she came up from New York City to be here today to help moderate my panel. Judge Richardson.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start by telling a story I said I wasn't going to tell, but I have to tell you this. Oh, thank me for coming. Thank me for coming from New York City. I was on Instagram that I use for work, and I saw this program pioneering attorneys and judges in the Capital District. And I said, oh my gosh, I have got to go to that. This looks like it's going to be such a great program. And then I saw my picture. It's already in my calendar. So that's just to give you, just prove that it sort of kind of is true that I'm a little busy, that I sort of even forget what commitments I have. But this program was one I wasn't going to miss. So even if I was going to be in the audience with you all who are here with us today, or if I was going to be online, this was not a program that I was going to miss. So thank you so much for that invitation. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. A few words before we turn to our esteemed panel about the why of what we are doing here. The struggle to diversify the bench of the state of New York and the bench of our country, quite frankly, is a long one. With each new generation building on the achievements of what has come before. We are truly talking marathon and not sprint. And this afternoon, prepare to join me in being wowed by this panel. 7 amazing Black women, and all of them have blazed trails in one way or another, or in one way or more than one way. We're going to start with our panel of judges, and it's my pleasure to introduce Supreme Court Justice Christina Ryba, the first person of color ever, capitals in bold-faced ever, elected to Supreme Court in any of the 28 counties of the 3rd Department. And hot off the press yesterday, it was announced the inaugural co-chair of the Permanent Judicial Commission on Access to Justice. Supreme Court Justice Sherri Brooks-Morton, the first woman of color to serve in Albany County Family Court before ascending. You have to wave since we're not in the order in which I wave. They will if they don't. Former Albany City Judge Helena Heath, the first woman of color to serve in the Albany City Court and the Albany County Judiciary, and Albany City Judge Judge Rice, the second woman of color to serve in Albany City Court. We would have needed a longer table if my friend Tanika Frost, the Honorable Tanika Frost, my dear friend, the first African-American city court judge in Schenectady, and who planned to be with us but had an issue of concern and can't be with us today. She actually is a leader and a trailblazer and co-leads our 4th Judicial District's Equal Justice in Courts Committee. So they will be delving much more deeply into their backgrounds, but I have an elephant in the room to address, and elephants happen to be my favorite animal, so I never pause or fear addressing an elephant that chooses to enter a room that I'm in. The elephant that's in this room has already been mentioned by our dean here. We're talking about firsts with people who could be my children. We're talking about firsts for people in our generation, and that is odd, and that is unsettling. And while they are first, they're also not firsts in this region in terms of the attorneys who have been serving. Long before those on this side became judges, there were other Black women attorneys who were well qualified for the bench. And I've been provided with several names of groundbreaking attorneys in this region worthy of note. And we mentioned the names of those who have ascended to the bench, but we're also mentioning the names of those who made it possible for my colleagues here to ascend as well. And the names that I've been given are, has been one or two have been mentioned already, Barb Cottrell, who became an assistant U.S. attorney here in the mid-1980s. And a decade later, Gloria Herron Arthur, who became the first Black partner of a major law firm in this region. Charlie Mae Johnson, a prominent matrimonial attorney. Linda Grice is an ADA in Albany. Bermuda Collins, an ADA in Schenectady. Grace Matthews, a labor counsel to General Electric. Stacy Rowland, an associate with Peter Pryor Associates, and then in the New York State Comptroller's Office. And naming names is often dangerous. So I've missed some names, and I'm hoping that my colleagues here and my friends here will fill in the names that I have missed. But it's important to name the names of those who blaze these trails, and we thank them. And I will mention one last name before I open it up and we start hearing from our panel presenters today. And that is the name of Jane Matilda Bowen. Judge Bowen in 1939 became the first Black woman judge in America. 1939. She was appointed to the court of my heart, the family court, what is now the family court of the state of New York, 1939. And she served on that bench because she was very young when she was appointed. She served 4 decades on that bench, changing lives. But she was the first Black woman judge in the country, and of course, then the first Black woman judge in New York. And we'll come back to that a little later. Justice Ryba, and this will be for all of our judges and justices. We are going to start by asking you to briefly describe your journey to your bench, how you pursued it, the obstacles you confronted, and the secret to your success. Justice Ryba.
Thank you, Judge Richardson. I just want to thank you for including me in this panel, and I'm thrilled to be here with the people, the members of the bench and bar who I admire and look up to as well. So my journey to the bench involves a whole lot of resilience. It also involved visualizing my goals and making a concise plan to achieve them. I had mentors who helped me select positions in the legal field. One's here today in the audience, Rachel Kretzer, and that way I did not have to reinvent the wheel. Initially, I thought I would start out with a run for city court, but after an interview for Supreme Court before the party in 2014, the feedback was that while I wasn't the selected candidate at that time, I impressed members of the committee. The following year, when an opening arose because Judge Stein was appointed to the Court of Appeals, I went on an interview again and was selected that time. So the next hurdle was to get the support from the 6 additional county chairs for the nomination. As some of you know, the 3rd Judicial District, where I was elected, is made up of 7 counties, has a population of about 867,000 people, of which about 85% are white and half are male. So as I endeavored to get the endorsement, there was some doubt in my mind that I could be elected. Why, you may ask? Because before I ran, no person of color had been selected to run as a candidate for Supreme Court in the entire 3rd Department. So I had to really go inward and focus on why I wanted to become a judge and make sure I spoke from the heart when I visited constituents in the 7 counties in my district. There were some people initially on my campaign team that didn't think I could win because it hadn't been done before. Needless to say, they were phased out of my campaign team. It really became important for me to only surround myself with people who knew my qualifications and wanted me to succeed. Those who didn't believe in me were asked to leave. I focused on others who were the first. I thought about how there was a Black president. I looked up to people like Randy Treese, who was the first magistrate of color in the United States District Court for the Northern District. Helena Heath, the first city court judge of color. I looked to these people and they inspired me. I also kept going back in my mind to why I wanted to become a judge, and it was to help people resolve their problems. I reminded myself that I have always competed as well as collaborated with people from many different backgrounds. So as I endeavored to run for position of New York State Supreme Court judge, I felt my template of past experiences had prepared me. I had served as an attorney in both private and public service. I'd been appointed and confirmed to the role of deputy director of a City of Albany agency, and I had served as principal court attorney to the appellate division. Little did I know I was about to go on a roller coaster ride. Of course, I was thrilled when I received so much support from fellow alumni, mentors, colleagues, and friends, some of which are here today. But while I had ample support, I also had people who were conspiring to see me fail and attempted to derail me. Nonetheless, I stayed focused, kept my eye on the prize, and kept moving forward. I'm a strong believer in the mantra, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Indeed, I wasn't appointed to the position, nor did I run in a year where the swing vote was irrelevant. I was elected by the people in the 3rd Judicial District in a highly competitive voter-dependent year by a population that mostly does not look like me, but still chose me. As a result, today, I'm proud to serve the people of the state of New York and as an elected Supreme Court Justice. And now I have the freedom that only comes when you follow your dreams and you stay focused on the future, you learn from the past and keep your eye on the prize. This freedom is the freedom to be the best judge I can be and to provide true justice for everyone. And I was recently appointed as supervising judge of the Supreme Court in the 3rd Judicial District. And that role has really allowed me to grow in my ability to lead from the middle. Middle management is about listening, patience, and also about empowering those you work with to stand up for themselves and find solutions that make our courts function better. And I also, just as recent as yesterday, was appointed as co-chair of the Permanent Commission on Access to Justice. And I look forward to collaborating with the community partners and the co-chairs. I had my first meeting today, so that was exciting. And that's kind of a quick 3 minutes of how I got here.
Thank you so much. Same question. We're going to Justice Sherri Brooks-Morton. In terms of your journey to the bench, how you pursued it, the obstacles you confronted, and the secret of your success.
So good afternoon, everybody. I am Sherri Brooks-Morton. I think my journey is probably the most unique because unlike many of the other judges, I did not grow up envisioning myself as a judge. So I went to law school and I became an attorney, and I was in courtroom after courtroom, and I just did not like the way judges treated our community, quite frankly. And I said, something has to change. There was not a lot of us, almost none of us I could think of. I don't know, Helena was there, but, and it was very disappointing. My clients were disgruntled, the public was disgruntled, there was little faith in the justice system. So I said, I have to be a part of that to make a difference. So I ran for a city court race and lost. So my initial race was against Judge Heath, and it was my foray into politics. And I think I had no idea what to expect. There's so much back work that goes into preparing for a judicial race. There are relationships that are formed and volunteering that you need to do in politics that happen long, long before you decide to run. And so I think that a lot of us as minorities, we don't know that, and we're not involved early because we don't know what that process is. So when we say, oh, we want to be judged, there are people who've been doing this forever and they have the leg up, which is why for so long we couldn't break into the field. So I got involved, I stayed involved, and I did a lot of work leading up to my ultimate, eventually I ran for family court judge and won. And the difference between the family court race and the city court race is that I was born and raised in the city of Albany, and that was a citywide race, but my family court race was a countywide race. And like Judge Ryba said, you get into Albany County, and there's many parts of the county that there are very little Black people. And I actually was in one of the hill towns, and we were campaigning, and we had, the sheriffs approach us because why are you guys walking around this neighborhood? So, it's things don't change no matter how far you get, but that's a separate story. So, I successfully ran for that race, and getting into the family court in 2020, which is obviously not that long ago, as the first one. And then to see all the people who look like me, who look like my kids, who look like my family, like shocked to see me when they walk in because they'd never, sorry, Judge Rivera, they saw him.
Judge Rivera's a guy. They did for you, Judge Rivera.
I see, I recognize him, but I was much cooler and so, I had two Black female interns actually call me a unicorn because they said, I can't believe it. We've never seen a Black female judge before. And I was shocked by that because it was like, I guess if you think about it, there really are little role models that you see. Growing up, I was born and raised in the city of Albany. My family was big and close, but largely not college educated. So there weren't those examples. And I think you emulate what you see a lot of times. And so we need to see what we know is possible, because if you don't see it, you don't even think about it. So it's really, really important for us to all show, the difference between me and a lot of, I think everybody, I have more kids than everybody up here combined, I think.
More children than everyone in this room.
So 4 of my 6 children are girls, and I want my daughters to know that as a female, your role is not necessarily at home. You can have a family and you can work and you can be successful and you can juggle both. It's a lot of work, but you can do both. And I want to have more examples of not only minorities, but particularly minority women. So you can see that we can do this. When I was pregnant, people would like make comments like, do you need to sit down, or do you need somebody to do that for you? And I was like, I'm not sure what happens when I'm pregnant, but I'm not automatically dumb. You need to show society that we are as capable as women, as Black women, so that it becomes the norm instead of the exception.
Now we are turning to former Albany City Court Judge Helena Heath to answer those same questions.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge Richardson. It's so nice to be here. It's like a homecoming for me. As you may know, I live in Washington, D.C. now since retiring from New York State government in 2021. And I want to say that while I work for a year now for DOJ, I am here in my personal capacity. Well, from my experiences from being here in Albany for 33 years and enjoying pretty much every moment, certainly every moment of the legal profession I enjoyed. I do want to give a shout out to John Carr, he did a wonderful job in getting this all together. And I've been with the court system forever and ever. And I kind of came up under role models. We were talking about that, or we talked about it already, the importance of role models. And Judge Judith Kaye was pretty much my first judicial role model. So she, as you may know, she was the first associate judge on the Court of Appeals in the state. And I was a court attorney when I walked into the courtroom and I saw her on the bench. I said, wow, women can be judges, right? So I didn't think about being a judge from a young age, but I definitely thought about being a lawyer from a young age. I have a second great story, but I may work it in later. But I was an advocate for a classmate when the teacher yelled at classmate, and then I got in trouble, but it's a whole story. But certainly, I think some of the ways that I became, wiser at understanding what it meant to pursue this process to become a judge was when I got to Albany County, having not been born and raised here, which was a barrier, but being from New York City and then making my career, starting my career here, is knowing and figuring out that being involved with the local political structure is going to be very important. And if you didn't have those connections, no matter what your resume was, whether you worked for an XX court or maybe chief judge was one of your references, whatever it wasn't enough, if you will, because you have to cover all the bases. And I didn't know, there was so much that I wanted to say today, and I'm saying enough in my 5 minutes now that's hitting on it, but I really feel like I want to say, as much as it bothers us, most of us, maybe not all of us, that you feel that, wait a minute, I should be looked at for my qualifications. That should be the only thing that matters. As we see a few people shaking, especially all the Albanians in the house. We know that, see, I'm still Albanian. We know, from New York City, don't forget. We know that, that it takes a combination of things. And even if you don't like that, then, that's one of the things you have to grapple with. You might not be ready for this elective political world, elective judicial office. And so for me, once I learned that I had to get involved with politics, one of the things that I did actually was a natural instinct was to get involved with Judge Karen Peters and Judge Leslie Stein's Supreme Court campaigns. And Judge Karen Peters, of course, being the first one, the first elected to the New York State Supreme Court bench in the third department, she was not received with open arms. And so there was, though, just my presence at her campaign fundraisers, and I was able to do that, there was no restrictions at that time. I wasn't a sitting judge or anything. And I went, and then I got noticed for me being in those rooms. And for me, I was very comfortable with supporting. I really probably was at the cusp of how much it took to have women break into this, but with people of color, It's also the other layer, but just women, I kind of come out of that, unlike, you know, the colleagues on the table here with me, we were really fighting to be seen as competent and qualified to be in all kinds of positions in the legal professions, especially in this upstate New York environment. So just to kind of quickly fast forward to what happened when I was in one of the rooms at a fundraiser for either Judge Stein or Judge Peters, is I got noticed by an Albany former 7th Ward leader, Bob Jukes, who I'll be seeing tomorrow with his lovely wife for breakfast, because I still keep in touch with him. And he's in their 80s. I'm sorry if they're watching live. I didn't mean to tell your age, but that's life. And that because he approached me, because he saw me involved with campaign events and different aspects of the party. And he said, you should think about carrying petitions and maybe become a committee person. And I did become a committee person. I'll get back to that in terms of how being a Albany County Democratic Committee person was my foray into elective politics. And then you flash forward, I was from 2000, 2005, a committee person when there was like less than 30% women that were committee members. People that I met through that process ended up carrying my petitions and coming from around the county to do so for a city court race. So my keys to success is definitely having a good reputation as a lawyer, working hard, of course, a lot of hard work, building a diverse relationships and being known across the city of Albany in many different communities were keys to my success.
And now you, Judge Rice, tell us, describing your journey to the bench, how you pursued it, any obstacles, and the keys to your success.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am one of those stereotypical judges who knew that they wanted to be a judge their whole life. I remember 4th grade when I wrote a book report on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I knew from that day forward that I wanted to be a judge. So that made it easier for me to draw my pathway to the bench, because I've known since I was a very little girl that this is the only thing I wanted to do. The obstacles I faced, I'm sure that all of us share. I was usually one of the only individuals of color in every single room that I was in. I went to Union College. I was one of a few. I was a political science and Africana studies major with a sociology minor. Oftentimes when I was in the political science classes, anytime there was discussions about violence, everybody looked at me. Why is everybody looking at me? I'm from Queens. I don't know anything about guns. I don't know anything about drugs. Why is everyone looking at me as if I know what that experience is? I oftentimes found myself everywhere I went having to explain myself and having to prove myself. That was an obstacle, but that was also a key to success. It gave me fire. I always wanted to show everyone that, yes, I am a poor girl from Queens, but I am just as prepared, if not more prepared, than everyone else in the room. Also, all of these women right here are my keys to success, and that gentleman over there as well. I still have my white and blue Ryba t-shirt. I still have my yellow Heath t-shirt. I have my purple and black Brooks pin. You know, I have my letterhead with his stuff on it.
That's Justice Richard Rivera.
Yes. And that is because I knew that I wanted to be a judge, and what better way to learn how to be a judge than from the individuals who came before me? What better way to pay homage than to make sure that I volunteer my time, my efforts to the individuals who were volunteering their time and effort to me. So I have plenty to share. I will wait until everyone goes, but that is my keys to success.
So I have the privilege of a separate follow-up question for each of our judges and justices on the panel. And if this is your follow-up question. So even if, and for the lawyers and the lawyers to be in the house, when a judge asks you a question and you have something else you'd rather say, answer the question first. And then say what it is you need to say. If there's something you'd like to contribute during this time, this is your follow-up question. Please address the question and then we'll hear from you about what you'd like to share as well. So we're going to begin with Judge Heath. And thinking of your vantage point, what's changed over the decades? Why was the time right for you? Could you have become a city court judge 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier? And any points of advice you have for the audience?
Thank you.
So my pleasure to answer that question. One of the things that, the answer to could I have become a judge 10 years earlier? I think the answer is maybe not. It may not have been possible because of the way, you ever hear the expression, the stars have to line up just right? I mean, this run, everybody has been in elective office in this room and many are here. It's not an art, I mean, it's not a science, it's an art, I guess, or whatever that is, It's something that you can't, like, for example, there were 4 men on the Albany City Court bench when the vacancy opened up because of the retirement of former Judge Duncan, God rest his soul. And it was kind of an easy choice. The mayor at the time, Jerry Jennings, appointed me. And that's another big thing. I know, obviously, in access to justice work and other work of the court system, we talk about how being appointed first is sometimes a very, very helpful part of your success in being able to run, because you're there already. You're asking the voting public to decide, are we kind of throwing this person out for a new person? Or are we keeping a person that has some track record in doing the work? So it was very important to be able to be appointed. And I wouldn't have been appointed, I don't think, quite necessarily in a year where there was, let's say, 3 women on the bench already. And, and only 2 men, or the mayor wasn't running himself at the time and maybe didn't want to have some good, good faith, efforts made or at least politically wise decision to appoint a woman to a bench that has 5 judges and there was no judges on the bench that were women and 1 slot open, right? So that's the timing part, that's the stars lining up. But I think when I look at Judge Peters, the 1992, when she became that Supreme Court justice, and I remember walking with her on the campaign trail with Judge Lenny Weiss, also God rest his soul, who was, the PJ at the time, right? Judge Seiss, was the PJ. And to see Judge Peters and Judge Lenny Weiss, and I'm holding somebody's umbrella, I'm holding my own, but theirs too, I think. I mean, that really never, in Troy, which, I never had been to Troy before at the time. I remember thinking how much I knew that the Albany County Democratic machinery didn't want Judge Peters to be in that slot, to be, the nominated candidate. But all of what she did, all of what it meant for Judge Leslie Stein to be on the bench, city court judge, it was her original judicial position. Judge Leslie Stein, who ended her judicial career as as everybody probably knows, as a Court of Appeals associate judge. That all had to happen. It all had to roll out before I think me coming along in the time that I did probably would have worked. And my establishment, as I mentioned, in the committee structure at that time, carrying other people's petitions, all of that work, that was 2000 to 2005. And the other stuff that was going on in the mid 90s and late 90s, as I learned more recently, too, that there was some rule changes in the committee structure, which allowed for people to select who they wanted to be as ward leaders as opposed to appoint to the one. And there was an effort made to increase the number of women in the committee structure. So that was happening too in the 90s. And then I think what I think was really important to me as I think about it for my own journey, it was important in my own journey, but what happened here that made it important, I think, in this context, was I was working for decades on diversity and increasing the diversity of people of color and women in the judicial, the bar and the bench. And I think when I walked in a room, that was also, while I was a woman, that was breaking that barrier in a lot of contexts. That part was easy to me in my sense of easy, like, I just see, like when I was on the bench, it's like, I don't know what the person thinks about me when they're looking at me. I just know I'm going to do the best I can do. And I'm going to make sure that you're not even going to remember whether I was woman, black, white, or it didn't really matter. You're going to have a competent, qualified person, and you're not intimidating me to make me feel any other way than that. So that's the way we all roll in. I think, and all of us on this table, everybody in this, I think this room, you have to believe that you have the qualifications and you have the experience to be there. And you're not going to be intimidated to think that you're not worthy to be there. And then by being able to be someone that always spoke about the need for more people of color in my bar association work, in my discussions with people in the community activities that I did, that was clearly a building block that I think led to all the pieces coming together. And I got picked to be appointed. And the mayor wanted a person of color and a woman to be in that position. I don't know if any of that would have happened other than the year that it happened, which was 2005. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So Justice Ryba, in 2015, you blazed that trail with an important first in a region, as I mentioned, of our state that encompasses 28 counties. I'm going to ask you about the factors that made that possible and any specific examples of a challenge that you faced while running that you were able to overcome and how you overcame it. I told you I was going to bring back our Jane Boland just to remind you, 2015 was 76 years after Jane Boland was appointed to the bench. You had your first by being the first Supreme Court Justice. Talk to us about that.
Thank you, Judge Richardson. So I want to echo the comments that my colleagues have made about the need to have connections, to lay the groundwork, to work on other campaigns. I did all of that, but I think one of the biggest factors was having the right qualifications. By that I mean that when I was on the campaign trail, I was able to talk about my experience working in management and litigation, public service, private practice, the appellate division. No one was able to legitimately say that I didn't have the relevant experience for the position I was running for. I also was really honest about why I wanted to become a judge, which is to help people resolve their problems. And I think the experience that I had, the connections I made, and my transparency was something that resonated with voters. When I look at a specific challenge I faced while being the first Black candidate for the 28 region, I remember a specific meeting I had with the PR team early on in my campaign. And after discussing the logistics of running in the 7 counties, one of them asked, so let's talk about the issue. And I said, what's the issue? And they're like, well, you're a Black candidate. And it was pretty much, they were hesitant to see me winning. And I determined after that meeting that we needed to go with a different firm. But I also decided I needed to only surround myself with people who believed in me. And that was so crucial, to stay focused on positive, not let the negative information, the negative feedback get to me, because that would have impacted the way I was interacting with potential voters. I also want to emphasize the importance of having a really tight team. I mean, there's people in this audience who were on my campaign team. They were there 24/7. My mother moved in with us for the last 6 weeks because my son was 6 years old at the time. I needed to be everywhere, and I didn't need to have that guilt of, never being home. So it was like, I'd have to go to CPS and then, so that wouldn't work out. That would not be good. So basically, I think the biggest factor is that I had people who believed in me. I also had a strong election lawyer, Jim Long, who's since passed away. He was crucial. He was somebody I could call and he would talk me off the ledge. And then Ali Polino was his associate who took over when he was sick towards the end of my campaign. So I would say the biggest, the most important factors was the experience, and then having a team of people who believed in me so I could stay strong and focused despite what was going on around me, which was sometimes very negative, but I was able to focus on the end result and I was successful. Thank you.
And so now Justice Brooks-Morton, as the first Black woman to be elected to Albany County Family Court. Judge Boland's court, I'm bringing her back again, right? That was her court.
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, she sat in New York City, first corporation counsel in the city of New York, first admitted member as a Black woman to the New York City Bar Association, and she hails from Poughkeepsie, New York. First Black woman, yeah, a million, first for, Judge Jane Bolin, but in terms of, and once again, 81 years later, after Judge Bolin was appointed, you became the first Black woman to sit as a family court judge in this region, clearly paving the way for those who will be following you. And as the next generation does follow in your path, in what ways do you hope their experiences will be less challenging than yours? And any tips you'd like to offer them?
I will say be patient. It can be very, yeah, how's that? Is that better? It can be very frustrating to constantly feel like you are the odd man out because people will discourage you and make you feel like you don't have a shot and they don't want you there. And even though we know, like we have all of the qualifications that the next person has, it makes you question yourself and you say, I know I can do this. I know I have the same experience, even more experience, but as there's a lot of Black people in the room, minorities in the room, you know, we have to work twice. You heard the saying, we have to work twice as hard to get half as far. So no matter what the qualifications were, there would always be seemingly some reason why it wasn't your time. So the frustration that you feel sends some people away. So I will say to the generation under me, do not get sent away. Now, if I went away, I wouldn't be where I was. I would be, again, I had a great job. I was the head of the conflict defender's office, but I wouldn't be a judge if I went away when they told me to. So I say, do not let them fool you into thinking that you are not good enough and that you can't do it because it takes work and it's hard and you don't want to do it. And my husband would say, I'll give you 5 minutes to pity yourself and then you get up. Now get up out the couch. And I had I ran a campaign pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant, knocking on doors. I ran a campaign with toddlers. You know, my kids were double strollers out knocking on doors with me. But you just have to be persistent. You have to get out there because if we go away, it makes it that much easier for them not to replace us. So I leave family court right now, or I left family court, and I want, I was the first. I don't want to be the last. So I, appreciate that there's an importance to my being there and the significance of that. And so we want to keep seeing that success. I don't want to be the first and the last, so just be patient, do the work, and don't be discouraged.
I would never accuse a judge of peeking into my notes, but I can prove to you that in my notes, it says we honor the firsts, so they are not the onlys and not the lasts. So thank you for that. Judge Rice, what do you know now from your journey and your experience and your journey and experiences becoming the second elected city court judge as a Black woman? What do you know now that you wish your younger self knew? And I see quite a few of your younger selves in the room, and I expect they will also be online listening. Shout out to those of you who are watching remote. Please have a nice chat with your younger self about your past and any tips for the younger selves in the room or online.
I have a younger self. Her name is Grace. She is 8 going on 28. So if I were to talk to Grace about what I know now and what I would have done differently, it would have been not to second guess myself. It would have been to just stand in my power, because now I know I am very powerful, and to keep trucking forward. I would tell myself, do all the internships, take all the jobs, say yes more. Because sometimes I found myself in second guessing myself saying, oh no, I don't think I could do something like that. Oh no, I don't think I fit in. So I'm going to sit back here. And I really, really don't want Grace to do that. And I know she won't. Because I teach her every day not to. And so if I can impart any wisdom upon all of you, don't step back. Stand up, stand tall, stand in your power. You can do this. You will do whatever you set your mind to. I did it, and there were plenty of barriers.
Just wanted to make a shout out to Ricja, because she did say yes, and she walked in her power. She's the first court attorney of color for the Albany City Court judge, City Court. And she was my court attorney among with the other judges. So she was the one that I passed the baton to, and she's the one that said yes and was a first in her own right in a very important role. So I want to give her a shout out for that.
Wow. Does anyone else on the judge panel have anything that they wish they had said and didn't say to offer to the audience? So please, now's your time.
Stay involved in your bar associations. I'm looking through this in the room, and a lot of the people that I hold near and dear to my heart, I met as a member of the Women's Bar Association or the Black and Hispanic Bar Association. The value of those bar associations are hands down the best. I cannot think of any, I met Judge Heath at a bar association event. Everyone that I've met here, it was because I went to a bar association event. I threw a bar association event. I wanted to collaborate with someone at a bar association event. So I would say, please, please, if you're not already, join a bar association. You meet your mentors, you meet your friends, you meet your forever colleagues in these associations.
I just want to echo what Judge Rice said, and also the importance of mentorship. If you know that you want to be a judge or a partner in a firm, find somebody who has the job you want and take their advice and listen to them and make them your person. Have lunch with them. I did that with Rachel and Judge Treese, and you don't have to start from scratch. We're here. There's people who have jobs that you want, and you should find them and make them your mentors. Okay.
And we should point out that our Albany County Bar Association president, Judge William Little is here. The Albany County Bar does an amazing job of doing pop-up happy hours. And I think it's a great opportunity to go because there's judges there and there's attorneys there and there's law students there. And I've been to several of those pop-ups, and I've gotten to speak to students who wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to interact with me on a day-to-day basis. And I've had great conversations with them. So I think it's an awesome event that everybody can participate in, and you can have one-on-one with a lot of the bar and just a kind of an informal setting.
And before your last word, when we're talking about the Bar Association, I would just have a friendly edit, not a bar association. Join bar associations. There's a state bar, there may be a local bar association. There are affinity, identity-based bar associations, and you do not have to just join the bar associations that are connected to the your own identity. That's what allyship is about. So bar association, some question the value of a bar association and their value in this day and age. And it is unquestionable, as you've heard from our colleagues. Judge Heath.
Thank you. And along that vein, I was just going to point out, one of the things that the Bar Association did, the Capital District Women's Bar Association, right around that time, I think in the 90s and the early 2000s, was they had a dialogue with the party leaders. And they pointed out, and Rachel Kretzer was headed up that, ended up being a colleague with me on the city court bench. So a year later, she got on the bench. We were the first time having two women on that bench ever. You know, it made a difference. I mean, you almost feel like you don't have a position of power. You're up against people, up against the rhetoric but possibly the truth of it too, where people say to you, you didn't pay your dues. We're going to do things by who pays their dues. That's why it's not about that we don't think women or blacks are ready to be judges, that they're, but the point is there's exceptions to that left and right. And there's people who had grandfathers who were, aldermen in the city of Albany, just kind of calling like I see it, or whatever the connection might be. They didn't necessarily pay their dues individually, but they had the connection to a last name. So there's obviously reasons why you don't get picked if they don't want to pick you. And I really felt strongly about saying, not only did we have the dialogue at the Bar Association, we kept at it for years. It was a message, and it was a message, right? And Judicial Task Force, no, but the ad hoc conversations, the bar leaders that wanted to say to, at the time, it was Matt Klein, who was the party leader, and as well as the commission's election commissioner for the Democratic Party, just to kind of call things out and put them in a position to have to. There was a program that was here at Albany Law School, and there was questions that were asked that we questioned things. I mean, this took work. It didn't happen overnight. So not only do you want to get involved with bar associations, so everybody can know who you are, know when you come before them for their selection committees, know that you're a good attorney, a great person. It's my segue to saying, Judge Peters once said, either to me personally or both, or in a room, how people always say, they have all the power, or they're the ones doing this or that. Why don't you become one of the they? And I can't tell you how much in my life that means everything to me, because when I'm at the table and I'm a decision maker, I remember why I'm there, and I remember what that authority is, and not to abuse it and to do it for the right reasons. So I work for all you guys in everything I do. Okay, thank you.
Well, we did wonderfully with our time, and thank you for everything that you've said thus far. I want you to be thinking, paying careful attention to the next panel, but thinking of any questions that we haven't asked, that haven't been answered, that you'd like to hear from, because there's going to be an opportunity at the end to take questions from the audience. So be ready for that. And now we are turning to my colleagues who could be my children. So I'm feeling some sort of way, I have to say. I'm feeling some sort of way. Deep pride, but oh my, all at the same time. So we will begin with Tracy Chance, the first African-American woman to serve as an assistant public defender in Schenectady County. And let's moving that. And the first to serve as conflict defender, who is joined on this panel by both Kimberly Wallace and Ricja Turner, who founded the first minority women law firm ever. Wallace, and I love the title. Listen, Wallace Turner Law. There's power there. Ms. Chance, we're going to begin with you. Tell me how it is possible that in a diverse city like Schenectady, there was never before you an African-American assistant public defender or conflict attorney. Make that make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. But what I do know is that when I did get hired in Schenectady County, I was told that the reason I was hired is because there was a push from the community, from the NAACP, to have somebody of color in the public defender's office. So this is not the first Black public defender, it's the first Black assistant public defender, which I don't know how that's possible. But I think without that push from the community in Schenectady, I don't know if that would have ever happened.
Still not making sense to me. Sorry. So when you reach a certain level of your career and a certain position in your career, you get to speak your truth in every space you enter, and that happens to be me. Every space I enter, you're going to hear exactly what I'm thinking. And as I age, with less and less filter. Talk to me about some of those challenges you've had in your career, Ms. Chance. We're still with you.
So it has been challenging. I mean, when you are the first in a whole county, oh, sorry. Yeah, in terms of mentorship, in your county, there's not that much. There's not that many people who've done it before and people of color. I remember when I first started in Schenectady County, I would go into the courtroom and they think I was a defendant. And I'm like, what's going on? I have a whole suit on. How am I? And you just saw me yesterday. Like, how am I gonna do it? But I mean, like anywhere, there are microaggressions. I'm not gonna say that it's easy. You know, when I became the conflict defender and you get in a room of people who feel comfortable with you, you know, things are said like, oh, I know you're not gonna have a holiday party, you're gonna have a Kwanzaa party, right? You know, and that's supposed to be funny. So, you know, you do have to deal with those type of things. But it also gives you an opportunity to change things. You know, it gives you an opportunity to educate people, to put people in their place, and to show what you can do. So I'm happy for the experience. I wouldn't change it at all. And now we've had other people in the public defender's office after me. So I'm happy that that was how it turned out.
So I just got triggered. Anybody else in this room? It's a whole suit. I didn't come to work in my pajamas. I am in a whole suit and being on a good day confused with the caseworker or the interpreter. I only speak English or confused with my clients. You just brought me back to a bad place, but that's not just historical. It's happening to you recently, and recently 21 years a judge, someone who I had been in meeting spaces with a number of times said, but you didn't recognize me. And then when they realized their mistake, instead of just saying, oh, it's you, hello, said, but you don't look like a judge. All of that. And I, for the first time in my entire life, had a quick response that didn't come at 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 days later. Aren't you telling me, you don't think that this is what justice looks like? Boundary. This is what justice looks like. Judge Rivera, this is what justice looks like. All of us, every single one of us in this space, this is what justice looks like. All right, back to the panel. Sorry about that. Again, Ms. Chance, what have you done in your current administrative position to advance others who may want to follow in your footsteps? You said that others have come behind you. What exactly? Give us some information about that.
So I want to say to all the law students here that despite the challenges you face, the looks you're going to get, you know, when people get comfortable, the things they're going to say around you, being in the room matters. Like you have to be in the room. And I'm looking at Ashley Dunbar, who's right in front of me, who's the first assistant county attorney. She's now and I've always been told that the reason we don't have diversity in Schenectady County is because we can't find anybody. We can't find any qualified people. I'm happy to say that my office has the largest amount of minorities out of about an 80% minority attorney's office. So being in the room makes a difference. I'm not searching out specifically people of color. People of color are applying. So if they're applying to me, it makes me think that they're applying other places too. So, you know, I'm very proud of that. And if, you know, when counties value diversity, then they'll have diversity. You know? And so I value diversity in my office. And so people who have been working in different offices in Schenectady County have not stopped working there and came into my office because we're a place where we value diversity. So I think, you know, by taking under my wing a lot of other minorities, them having the same experiences that I've had, being in a courtroom when you're the only minority, all the defendants around you are Black, you look up on the walls, you see all white men lined up against the wall, you know, it's an unsettling feeling. And being able to understand that and relate to that, you know, and being able to help mentor other attorneys who are now blossoming and following the same footsteps, I think that's a blessing. And so I try to keep my office the way I think the county should be, and that's diverse. Thank you.
I think I heard you say that if you cannot find a highly qualified, experienced, diverse candidate, you're not looking.
That's true.
Now, to the law firm owned and run by Ms. Wallace and Ms. Turner. You have done something that nobody has done before you in this community, and that is establishing a firm operated by women of color. And I am so curious about so many things. Your client base, your business model, how did you do this? And I'm going to ask each of you to answer that in your own way. I knew they were going to do that.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Ray and I met at the end of 2019 at an event. And she approached me at a silent auction and we talked for a few minutes. And she said, let's open a law firm. I said, okay, let's do it. Went across the street and we had a cider here, like the guys do. And we chatted a little bit, exchanged numbers. Then we started to meet weekly. What is this law firm gonna look like? What is the name? What's our logo? Who can we look to see how they did it? We're the first, and in the moment we didn't think, oh, let's do this because we want to be the one, right? It was just something that we're like, we can do it. Why not? We worked in government, we worked in private practice, and we liked certain things. We didn't like a lot of things. So we wanted to create something that we would be happy in, we could be proud of. And that's how it started out. So you want to?
Yeah, and like Kim was saying, we created a place that we wanted to be at, right? We worked in different offices and it was things we liked and things we didn't. And one of the things that we held dear as women is family, right? We wanted to procreate. We wanted to have 1 million kids. I'm lying. I'm not having.
You started.
I love those children, but we wanted to have a place, but those things were going to be welcomed, right? And we didn't say, oh, well, you're having a baby, you're not going to be able to do A, B, C, you're not going to be able to advance, right? Because that's not the reality of it. Women can do so much. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired as hell, but look at me, right? I'm here. We wanted to have that type of environment. We wanted to foster that type of environment, right? Our staff, they have kids, they have life, they have real things happening. And I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable to say, listen, this is what's going on. I can't do this because of this. In the beginning, I remember one of my employees, she said to me, I'm not feeling well. And I said, why the hell are you telling me that? Like, you go home. Like, you don't have to ask me to go home. You are grown. If you're not feeling well, that means you can't function. You can't do the things you need to do. You don't need permission for certain things. And I told her flat out, I said, so when I used to work places, I didn't say I didn't feel good or, hey, I'm not feeling good. Can I go home? I'm going home because I am not feeling well. That is the statement. It's not, we're not going to go back and forth because I'm not feeling well, right? And so we want to foster that type of environment. We do foster that type of environment, and we work hard. We work hard, and we want to be able to show our work, and we want to be able to serve our community. There's value in having attorneys that look like us. People, they feel like they're being heard because they are being heard. A lot of the experiences that they have, we can relate to. And we want to be those people. And so we opened up Wallace Turner Tall.
But today, it is Wallace Turner Tall.
But because we could, right? We did it because we could.
Yeah, we didn't have money, right? Capital contribution.
Broke.
I know we put together our operating agreement, what it would look like when it came to capital contribution. We left it blank because I'm like, how much do you have?
$30. We split $30 bill one time. I remember that. I was like, I'm gonna cash app you my 15.
Yes.
And
That's for our phone bill, right? And we actually, our first opportunity came when an RFP came out. And it was for legal services to provide real estate services. And we're like, let's apply for this. But first we need to look like a firm, right? So we came to Albany Law and we met with the clinic. And we asked them, like, do you want to go in on this with us as partners so that we can look like a strong candidate? So we actually sat in the parking lot on Ray's Wi-Fi hotspot
And we formed Wallace Turner Law LLP, and she's like, send me $50 for filing fee. So that's kind of how it started out. It's been, highs, it's been lows, struggles. But we've been lucky to have not attorneys that look like us, but attorneys that like us and colleagues that we can talk to about certain struggles. Judge Little, I would call him like, hey, which bank do you use for your IOTA account? Just little things like that, that we would have no idea how to come about. And we also have friends in other states that have law firms, right? So it's not why, it's like, why not do it? Because why wouldn't we be able to succeed? And my thing is always, the worst thing that can happen is that I can go get a job, right? So if that's the worst, why not try it out?
That's what I was gonna tell. I am fascinated that you created the law firm at which you wish to work, so others will wish to work there. That fascinates me. I want to hear about some of the highs, because I'm not interested in lows, even though we're here to talk about the challenges and how you overcame them. Let's start with the highs. You described the highs. What are the highs in your work? And tell me, how are you building your practice?
I think some of the biggest highs are our failures. Because when things don't go the way we envision and we plan, it's like the air gets knocked out of us. And like, we're like, what are we supposed to do? It's like, do we quit? Do we go get jobs? Do we move? 'Cause I'm like, I'm not staying here. I'm like, we're gonna go to Jamaica and that's what we're gonna do.
I don't think she means Jamaica Queens.
Jamaica. Country. But the reason the lows are the best, because when we get that high, we just look at each other and we're like, we did that shit. Like, seriously, no, because
Oh my goodness, they are young. Did they just? I didn't hear that. That just helped me.
effort, but it's like we did that. It's like, even though, we didn't bring in as many clients as we thought that month, even though we didn't have the amount of billables we wanted that month, we were able to accomplish A, or we were able to accomplish B, or that one person we helped, we changed their life. And so that's the type of high that we're able to go on, and that motivates us to go into what the next thing is. And so I would say that's been the blessing of it all, and being able to, I don't know, lean on one another. That's been like, this is my person. Like when she said, like, I met her and I was like, we're going to open up a law firm. It happened in 10 minutes. In that time, after that, when we went to go get the cider, in the few months leading up until when we opened the law firm, I told her, I want to get to know every single thing about you. I want to know you. I want to know your mom. I want to know your dad. I want to know what makes you happy, what makes you sad, because we are going to be a partnership and I want to succeed. And we can't do that if we don't know enough about, one another, because it's going to be me and you. And that's what we did. And she got on my nerves a lot. Like, it was like a lot. And I was like, all right, I'm not even going to say that because I already know what's going to be the next thing. But it worked out for us. I think it worked out for us.
And it is working out for you.
Yes.
And I think highs for me are, well, being able to have interns that look to us to, they want to go to law school, they want to be judges, they want to do all these things, but they don't know any attorneys that look like, I didn't have an attorney that looked like me when I was in Sage. And I didn't know attorneys, period, actually. So to be able to have high school students, college students reach out to us saying, can I come shadow? Can I come to your firm? Can I get a job? Like, it's a blessing to be able to say, absolutely. Right now, our intern Cindy is here. She goes to Sage College. We have Alexia here as well, who interned. She was a law clerk for us. So to be able to have a space where people that look like us, people who don't look like us can reach out and have somewhere to go to get experience to move on to the next level is a big blessing for us because we didn't have that.
So here's a question where you get to say something, each of you, that you haven't said yet that you think our audience should know. You first, Dan.
You know, because I'm somebody, you know, we grew up in a similar place. I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, and I didn't know any attorneys. Only attorney I knew, I'm dating myself, is Matlock, and that's all I knew.
Maybe she's not one of my children.
I didn't know. You know, all I knew was I would go to church, and if you said you were gonna be an attorney or a doctor, they'd be like, oh, that's great. And so I just picked one to say, you know, so. But it's hard when you don't know, and that's why it's so good that these attorneys, these judges are here to talk to you, because I always thought you do the best job you can as an attorney, and then you can be a judge. And then I see people going, you know, with less qualified than me going by. I just didn't understand it, you know? So if you don't have somebody that's willing to reach out and mentor you, go get one as soon as you can, because I think that would save a lot of time. And also trust yourself. Sometimes when you're in a room with people that don't look like you, you doubt yourself. You know, do not doubt yourself and speak your mind, even if you're the only one there. So I remember a lot of times I would say to the judge, this person had drugs, this person had drugs, this person's white, this person's black, they got drug court, and you want to put this one in jail. So what's the difference? And they would say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize that. So don't be afraid to speak out. That's what I would say.
One thing I would say is don't be afraid to go after what you want. Tracy already said we're both from East New York and Brooklyn, right? And so, and I grew up in the projects. And I remember when I was in law school, I used to get so stressed sometimes about like certain things, or when there was final exam times. And I put a status on Facebook and I'm just like, oh my goodness, they're stressing me out. I just was frustrated and I was venting on Facebook. And I had a friend of mine, he sent me LOL to my message. And I was like, what is funny about this? He was just like, girl, you're from Brooklyn. You're from Brooklyn. You can do whatever you put your mind to. You've come thus far, you're gonna go further. And it's never that serious, right? You wouldn't be there if you weren't supposed to. And so I would say go after what you want, don't give up. Don't be afraid of change. My background is in theater and dance. That's what I went to stage for. That's all I wanted to do. Acting was my plan A, my plan B, my plan C. I woke up one day and I came up with another plan, and that was okay. And I went after it, and here I am. So I would say believe in yourself, don't give up, and go after what you want.
And I'd say every single skill you earned and learned in plan A, B, C, and D is serving you well, except use of the S word in front of 4 judges. So we're gonna forgive you that one as we tease you for the rest of your existence. We will be bothering you about that for the rest of your existence, but every single thing, honestly, that you've learned in terms of your acting passion, compassion, and skill set is serving you well in your profession. So nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. And one other, I am really proving my age. You are not, any of you young people, venting on social media about how you are feeling.
Yeah.
It lasts forever. It stays forever. And your future employers are going to look and judge you based on that. So I give you that for free. Then to your human being friends without your phones in the room, because the phones are listening too.
Got the highest grade that year.
Of course you did, because you're allowed to vent. I'm just saying, vent in person to your class. In your response.
So I would say to be yourself. I remember when I started practicing, I was doing my hair a certain way, right? This is what I think an attorney should look like. I had my wigs looking crazy. But now I'm just more comfortable in myself and I'm gonna wear my braids to trial, to court, to conferences, to all the bar events. They say, our hair isn't professional, but I mean, look at me. This is professional. So I want, the younger, we're all the same age, right? The next generation to go out there confident, being yourself, no matter what your hair looks like, your color, whatever. I think that's one of the mistakes I made in the beginning of not being totally confident in who I am and what I wanted to look like and present.
Your hair is professional because you are a professional. Says the woman with the dreadlocks unapologetically. And this is the second round of them. So I've been doing this for decades. So it's time to hear other voices now. Are you ready with some questions for any members of our panel? Yes. Oh, we have to start with.
I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of these women who I know so well. And I had the honor of swearing in two of them. Justice. I'm so sorry. Retired Judge Rachel Kretzer. And I had the honor of swearing in Justice Ryba as the first woman, the first person of color, period, in the 28 county third department. I also had the honor of swearing in Judge Rice as the first woman of color of the Capitol to be president of the Capitol District Women's Bar. I know each of these women well, but they minimized the courage it took. And I know others. I had the honor of swearing in and being a part of their lives, who became judges. So anyway, it was, and Judge Heath alluded to this, it was a different world back then. We had a program, a Path to the Bench program that I helped put on as past president of the State Women's Bar. And we decided to invite the Democratic Party leader who is sitting up here. And I wasn't going to name him, but you did, Matt Klein.
Being a retired judge as a person.
It does. Very liberating. And we asked the audience that looked a lot like you, who wants to be a judge? Who has that aspiration? All these hands went up and we're beaming up front. We're beaming to see all of that. And Matt immediately said, well, you better wait in line. You better wait because it's going to be years because we have all these people who've already paid their dues. And it was, I couldn't believe he said it, frankly. It was less than a year later, though, that he was no longer chair. And there was some press about that. So these Path to the Bench programs actually have made a lot of difference over the years. But it took so much courage to be the first because that's what you were up against. And they were unapologetic about it. And, I have to say, the last time I saw Judge Richardson, she was getting the Ruth Shapiro Memorial Award. Years ago, the highest award given out by the State Bar. So.
Thank you. Audrey.
Everyone up here, I can't come up with a question.
That comment was very important.
Wanted to put this in context. It takes so much courage to do the thing.
Thank you, Judge. Questions? This is an opportunity.
Planted question, but I was wondering if, my name is Kate McGraw. I'm a Schenectady City Court Judge. Judge Kretzer is my mentor. Miriam Porterfield, who is our City Council President, is here today. So point about political leaders being participants in relation to this. And so Judge Rice touched on it a little bit, and you touched on it also, Judge Richardson Mendelson, and that is how allyship is important. And so I know we talked about only talking about the highs and not talking about the lows. And so when there are lows, I was wondering if everyone could answer the question in terms of what do you do to bring yourself back and to dust yourself off and to just keep going. And in addition to that, I was hoping the judges could talk about money, running for office and how to raise that money.
That's a great question. If I could start with answering. So I think it's important to really have a understanding of who you are and a comfort level. You have to have thick skin to run for office because not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. So I think if you have to really have a strong sense of self, and then surround, like I said earlier, surround yourself with people who believe in you. My husband was always very supportive. My mother, my siblings, I'm the youngest of 4. I also mediate all their issues, but they also they also support me. So I think at my lowest moments, those are the people I go to. I'm also religious. I pray, I exercise. I think running and yoga, those types of things are important. I think mental and physical health go hand in hand. So I think that's a lot of information.
How do you respond to the low? That's just a good information. So with that.
And for the lows, the person who asked the question is my absolute best friend. And she has been my best friend for such a long time. And anytime I had a low, I would go to her. And I could confide in her for everything. When you talk about allyship, I don't know how many times I second guess myself, and Kate would say, "That's just racism." But you need someone like that next to you at all times. At all times. Thank you.
Maybe as to the money question, second part,
You're the only one I want to answer.
okay. That's fine. Yeah, we'll talk later about whether it's window or some general restriction, but not gonna let you mess up, Rita, that's for sure. I don't have, you don't have the quite relationship she has with Kate, but she's very special to me too. I have my best friend that in family, I echo that about who you go to and how you take self-care and all the good stuff that comes along with it. I think it reminds me too, the money is tied to ringing doorbells, I think too. But I wanted to say that, some people really don't like getting out of their, get off work. They want to go home. They want to take their clothes off. They want to watch the news or whatever. They want to start cooking dinner. If that's what you want to do for and you can't not do that for a 9-month period, give or take, don't ever run for judge. Never. Because you have to be out, I have my stuff in the car, work to whatever the everyday grind is, it's a grind. And you do need people that you can rely on to kind of vent and just maybe go and have a glass of wine when you get off the street at 9 o'clock. We won't talk about how much more wine you end up having potentially during that week, but that's happened during COVID apparently too. But I think the money thing, Leslie Stein came to mind about talking about how women, apparently it was based on some research, based on some information gathering that women often have the purse strings in the family, in terms of who writes checks for things between a husband and a wife in this example. And that there are times when the woman in that role doesn't necessarily contribute monies to, let's say, the woman candidate or to causes that might be supportive of women. Whatever that piece is that doesn't allow that person who has the purse strings at that point, I guess, we got to break that down more. And I think we probably do present day. We definitely did back then. There has to be a connection to understanding why this is supportive of the values and the causes that people care about. And I think it's an excuse to think that somehow, we're going to rely on people to be influenced by their spouse and your spouse is not on board yet. Well, make sure your spouse is on board. Make sure you can do some inroads with what people value about why you want this candidate to be in office. And I guess one of the most important things that helped with the money raising in my experience was I had to be connected to the community. I had to have people when I ring their bell go, "Hey, I've seen you before." you were my kid's graduation speaker, or I saw you at a block party, or I saw you at the Heritage Foundation's, whatever, Heritage Day or Black History Month, program. And I think when people get to know you as a human being, I mean, that's when you break down some of the barriers. Someone's not just knocking on your door, sending you a, you know, an email or social media request or a good old fashioned invite to ask for money for some person just because they're, let's say, the endorsed party candidate. That's a good piece. That's a great piece. But you also better make sure people know who you are as the individual that you are. So that's kind of like the overall advice anyway, that you have to be very authentic, very willing to, having thick skin and very willing to be out there and to, take the knocks and just know you have your squad. That's what you can rely on. No, everybody doesn't have to love you, but you know what you have to do to get people to like you enough and enough people that like you and believe in you. I think they open up their pocketbooks a little bit more and their wallets.
Judge Richardson, I will not talk about races, to the extent that it will, jeopardize anything of my judicial career. But I will say, I've been in 2 races where I have raised a fraction, I mean, literally probably 25% of what the highest person in the race raised. And that's very discouraging. And our filings are public and they put it in the paper and you're like, geez, I only have 10,000 and they have 100,000. But what you do not, and I think the downside is that they will ask you to loan yourself money. And a lot of times you won't have a lot of money to loan yourself when your family doesn't have a lot of money, because like I said, I didn't come from a family of people who were all professionals. So they give you a lot less than maybe somebody else's family gives you. But what you do not have in money, you absolutely have to have in manpower. So I don't sleep. Any of my friends know that. They get texts from me all hours of the night. So what I would do is I would knock on doors religiously every single day, rain, shine, pregnant with my kids. And I would go home and I would write a handwritten letter to every person that I met. Because for what you don't have in money, the money is the benefit to get yourself out there. But that letter means they're going to tell 10 of their friends, I got a personal letter from this candidate I met. And what you don't raise, you have to do some other way. It's going to be work. So like Helena said, if you're not going to be out there 24 hours a day and don't do it, because it's going to take work.
Any other suggestions on the lows and responding to the lows in life?
We have each other to, rely on. In the beginning, we used to spiral together. Oh my God, we didn't get paid this week. We should shut it down. And now it's like when one person has an issue, like I can be there for Ray, she'll be there for me, and we're not in this like spiral together anymore. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Support system.
Yeah, so even in, in day-to-day life, you go to court, something's just not fair. We go to our office, we're all mad. Like, we support each other. So definitely get your venting board, your support system, and that's how you deal with the lows.
For 5 minutes, and then you pick yourself up and you go out and do that thing. 5 whole minutes to vent.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Beverly Ivy, friend to many of the women up there and have campaigned and such. Mine is more of a technical question. I had so many friends that I forgot to tell about this event. So I texted, so I didn't know, is it being recorded? Tanika Frost, women, other judges I know. I said, oh God.
Somebody else with a knowledge-based knowledge, yes?
Okay, good.
With confidence?
That's all I wanted to know. You get it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Narina Melita. I actually worked with Ray previously in private practice. I wanted to ask 2 questions. They're not related. One of them is, it's really nice that we're doing this, but I do want to talk about what you said about the elephant in the room. And does the fact that this is just, it's a room full of firsts in 2024, does it make it hopeful or does it make you angry? Or are you both? How does it make you feel looking at the judges that are first in this decade? And the second question is, talk about your kids and how you balance doing that all that hard work with your kids?
Open-ended can coexist and often done.
Right. So the question about the children and the balance, that's going to be, I think, best answered by individuals who have maybe particularly more younger children. And my son is 36, and I mean, other than taking him to the women's bar meetings, with the little McDonald's that some of the women would just in the corner, not too often, you can't have McDonald's every night for your kid, but we would be open to bringing your children to these important meetings so that you could make the balance work. And we had programs and support systems in the women's bar and programs in conjunction with the Women Law Caucus at this school to talk about that balance. But I think the hopefulness question is, I guess, I would like not, and civil rights activists could be your role models in this regard. I would like no individual to ever think that the fight is over, right? And fight the good fight, right? As John Lewis would say, good trouble. And that we should always build upon the foundation pieces, which we're representing here, but that there are people behind us that have, I was in Albany 33 years. There was a big difference between now there's a Black Chamber of Commerce, right? And they took over the university, the organization is in the university club's former building. Yeah, all of it's good. I mean, Jill Faison is 20 years my junior. She's 10 and I'm 30. But anyway, and and I had 33 years experience in New York State government. No, but I looked at her because she would clap when there's people that of those age group that did a lot of work in Albany, and we see people that are, there's more, a few Black owned businesses in Albany or different things that didn't exist 20 years ago. I think it's a combination. It's not, everybody's not going to become a lawyer or a judge, but I think the more you fill up a room, the more you tell your person that you're, behind you, that you're a role model for, a mentor for, that you have to keep doing the work and you have to keep having these pathway programs. This is a unique one. This is about pioneering women, but there are just the everyday. I used to do them with this law school, as a chair of the diversity committee for the women's bar. I met the new president of LALSA and BALSA every year, and a couple of the other, and the Women Law Caucus and other groups. You have to keep the connections going. So when you can be discouraged, we can be discouraged by so many things. I mean, I'm in the national kind of scene these days, and it's just mind blowing, right? We can get overwhelmed by all of the hatred. I'll just leave it at that, right? And this is Helena talking. I'm not talking from everybody else. I just would never want to lose sight of the fact that no matter how the pendulum is swinging about more numbers of judges or lawyers of color coming up, maybe less 1 year, the law school class is looking good. The new dean is here. I mean, Albany Law School kept an eye on that, and maybe some of the law school's students didn't think they were doing enough to law school, but then they spoke about it. Then we dialogued about it. Then we pushed for something different, So you just have to keep fighting. That's all I could say. I guess I should say ended there. Yeah.
I want to just add that I'm hopeful because I, as a judge, have had interns from Albany Law School, intern in chambers, and it's really encouraging to see the next generation of students who are really confident. They know what they need. There's a lot more going on here at the law school with wellness, and there's a diversity office now. So I think that, like Judge Heath has said, we can't lose track that we have to lose track of the fact that we need to continue to focus on additional people becoming lawyers and judges. I think we're going in the right direction. Now, shifting to the whole balance with kids. I have a 15-year-old. He was 6 when I ran. I have a supportive husband, and aftercare programs are great. So
Grandmas.
grandmas, yes. Yeah, so that's all I want to say.
Well, I saw everybody look at me about the kids question, so I'll go ahead and answer it. So I have 6. My youngest is 6 and my oldest is 29. So, I also have Judge Richardson and I both share pictures often of our new grandbabies. So and if people say all the time, oh, you have older kids, that's great because they will help you. No, they do not. Let's just be clear. My older children do not watch my younger children. That is not a thing. Watch my younger children means I come home to the older one sleeping on the couch and the little one doing God knows what. So no, but my husband, thank goodness for him, and my mom, because they've been great. But really, you have to incorporate your children into everything that you do. So I had nights where I would come home and my kids would cry. They hadn't seen me all day. I had a teacher call me when I was running for this last race saying, Bryn was crying at school. She really misses you. So, and it was like, okay, so tonight Bryn has to go to a campaign event because I have to spend time with Bryn. It didn't mean, unfortunately, that I could stay home. It meant that now my 6-year-old is at some campaign event with me, but she doesn't care. She's with mommy. So, you know, thankfully, the Supreme race is a lot of events and not really campaigning. So people saw my kids with me all the time. We went to fairs, we went to festivals. I just put them in t-shirts, made them look cute. And it was like a crew of purple t-shirts, you know, and you just have to balance it. It's hard. You know, I do a lot of things in the middle of the night, laundry and lunches, and everybody knows I draw napkins for 3 of my girls every single day for their lunch boxes. And it's just something that I will not give up no matter what my professional career requires. But it's time consuming. And there's nights I sit at my island with my head on it, sleep over a napkin because I'm so tired. But I have to balance that because they didn't choose me to run. They like the perks of my being a judge, of course, but you just got to work it out. And yes, hope does coexist with anger many days.
I don't believe that there is a work-life balance. I just think that there is life, there is work, there is home, there is family, there are friends. There's a lot to life, but it's not going to be balanced. You will be in a constant state of imbalance as you seek to balance. So instead of doing that, live all of the life fully is my advice to you. So sharing that the chat, one person in the chat said that this is an amazing program indeed. I told you you would be wowed. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and will you be sharing the recording? The answer is yes. I want to share with some friends. We will be doing that. The second question I'm not asking you because I think it's political. So I'm going to use a prerogative and not even tell you what that is until you go home and see the chat, if it's saved. Okay. Judge Fisher, I think it's your turn now. Thank you for this opportunity. I really, really enjoyed it.
And we're reminded again that, you know, we are the Gender Fairness Committee and we are talking about women, and I'm always a strong supporter. Sorry. I'm sorry. Of course.
Hi, my name is Nell Stokes, and I know some of the women up here, and I just want to tell you, I am so pleased to be in this room. I just needed to say that. It was boiling up inside of me. Yeah, I'm so proud of all of you. I am so proud. I'm a community well, I'm a retired community activist. I just turned 85 years old on January 6th. Too. I've worked in the community for the past 60 years doing a whole bunch of things, and I've never seen this many lawyers in my life. I'm sorry. It just fills me up. And I just want to say to you, I am proud of you. I will continue to pray for you all the time. And I just want you to do your best. Do your best all the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you are an amazing person, and thank you. And the reason why the Gender Fairness Committee is here, it's all about women helping other women. And that's one of the things I've always loved to do. And one of the reasons why we thought it was so important for Black History Month to acknowledge women of color, that the successes that they made. I see you have your hand raised.
I have a personal voice. I'm retired. Miss Nell Stokes, she's not retired from the community activist. Let's say you're an exhibit, a phenomenal exhibit about Miss Stokes at the Albany Institute of History and Art.
So thank you for coming. Thank you. So, and back to my shameless plug about our Gender Fairness Committee, we are about bringing attention, because I've heard some people say to me, you know, why are you doing this event, or what is this event about? And I hope it came through that it's not just about being the first woman of color. We don't want to be the token, right? We don't want them to say, okay, we made them happy. We check the box. Let's go back to the old ways again. We do this for top of mind awareness, to help other people, to encourage other people. You all are role models. We all are role models as women and as women of color. And people look up to us. And I say this because optics do matter. And I was told this once when I was asked to speak at something, and I was like, oh, I guess they're right. And then recently I was with the appellate division in Chenango County, which is very far away. And they were hanging Judge Gary's portrait. And we were there. And at the end, they had a little reception with for lunch. And there was high school students there and some college students there as well. And I remember Justice Aarons was there, and a girl walked up to her, and she was a girl of color. And Judge Aarons is originally from Jamaica, and said, you know, I saw you there and I want to be a judge and I want to be a lawyer. And I didn't think it was possible, but I saw you. And she came up and she asked, you know, can I sit with you and talk to you? And she came, and, you know, of course, Judge Aarons is gracious, and she sat at the table at lunch with us and talked to her. So optics do matter. And programs like this do matter, and that we get out there and that we show people that we can do it, because we all do this. We all feel like we have to be twice as qualified, twice as prepared, twice as professional to prove that we can do it and we could be there. And my husband once said, he's a very wise man, people fear strong women. So be strong. Okay, so that being said, I had a couple of notes that I wanted to say. I also am very proud of the law firm, because, you know, you might not realize this, we're having a hard time finding lawyers in the upstate community and outside of New York City in the big areas. And it's so refreshing to see people take a chance in starting their own law firm. There's not a lot of people out there like you, Black, white, women, female, male. It's a really hard thing to hang out your shingle, but that's one of the great things about the legal profession, is that we can do that, right? Like you said, if it fails, we'll just go get a job, right? But you're not going to fail. You're going to succeed. So on that note, I have a couple people to thank. One person in this room that hasn't been thanked yet, I don't think, and that I could not have done this without him, is John Carr. John Carr is like having Oz with you from the Wizard of Oz. He has managed to get so much media attention for this event, and he's encouraged me to write letters to the governor and to the Attorney General's office to get people to come to speak, which hopefully will get the Attorney General's video up in a moment. I also want to thank our sponsors and our co-sponsors, and this goes back to when we were talking about hooking yourself up with professional associations, whether it be by lawyers in general, by women, by ethnic background, whatever it may be. This is how they come and help. For example, we have our sponsors today are the Albany County Bar Association, the Albany Law School Women Caucus, the Capital District Black and Hispanic Bar Association, the Capital District Women's Bar Association, which I cannot sing their praise enough. I've met all of you through there, and they all supported me in their journey, and they're just great. The Montgomery County Bar Association, the New York Association of Women Judges, where I met Judge Richardson, the New York Judicial Committee on Women in the Courts, the Schenectady County Bar Association, the Franklin H. Williams Judicial Commission, and these beautiful flowers were generously donated by Marie Campbell, who owns very kind of her. They're lovely. And finally, I'd like to thank my husband, John Fisher, who's in the back of the room. He graciously offered to host the reception that's waiting for us downstairs in the foyer. And also, on the note of owning your own law firm, my husband has authored a book called Law Firm of Your Dreams, and he has a couple he brought with him today to give out to free to anyone who's interested in starting their own law firm as well. Okay. So on that note, make sure I haven't forgotten anybody. Wait, one more. We're going to try to play the message from the Attorney General, Letitia James, who is an amazing, amazing woman. And this is why we need the young people for the technology. From here.
I would point
That one.
Good afternoon. I'm New York State Attorney General Letitia James. I appreciate the opportunity to address you all today. I want to thank the Honorable Edwina Richardson, the Deputy Chief Administrative Judge for Justice Initiatives, for moderating today's program. We are holding this important event, a time when so many people have managed to hijack the meaning and intent of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And programs such as this are indispensable to fighting back against such propaganda, especially within the capital region, where African American women have only recently found opportunities to become judges and other ascendant positions within the legal community. That is why I am so pleased to be part of a program featuring groundbreaking women of color in the capital region legal community. I am honored to be listed amongst your distinguished guests, including the Honorable Christina Ryba, New York State Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Sherri Brooks-Morton, Albany County Family Court Judge, the Honorable Ricja, Albany City Judge, the Honorable Helena Heath, former Albany City Judge and a very good friend, Tracy Chance, Schenectady County Assistant Public Defender, Kimberly Wallace, and Ricja Turner, who are partners at Wallace Turner Law LLP, and of course, Judge Ryba. While all of you are examples of the progress made, we also know that much work still needs to be done. In the 130-year history of the Appellate Division 3rd Department, there has never been a judge of color from 28 county departments on the court. There are 2 judges of color, Justices Sharon Ahrens and Eddie McShane, both relatively recent additions, but neither is from the department. Until Justice Ryba was elected in 2015, a person of color had never been elected to the Supreme Court in any of the 28 counties of the 3rd Department. So I appreciate how you've come together today to recognize the importance of representation and diversity in government in general and the legal system in particular. Throughout my career as an attorney committed to public service, I have learned a fundamental fact about the American legal system. Representation matters. We achieve great things when we are represented in the halls of power. The diversity of legal professionals and experiences represented by this group is a testament to this fact. It has not been easy for us to rise up through the ranks of the legal profession. It has taken passion and hard work from generations of individuals, including women. It was 85 years ago that Jane Boland became the first Black woman judge in the United States when she was sworn in as a family court judge in New York City. And it was only in 1966, during most of our lifetimes, when the indomitable Constance Baker Motley became the first African American woman to serve as a federal court judge. But we have built on that progress, and we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we have been able to reach higher heights. In 2015, Loretta Lynch became the first African American woman to serve as the United States Attorney General. And just barely 2 years ago, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was appointed to the United States Supreme Court. Additionally, we have had states elect Black women to the role of Attorney General, including California with now United States Vice President Kamala Harris, Massachusetts with Andrea Campbell, and of course me here in the great state of New York. So progress has been made, but we must not rest on our laurels. We must remember that our presence is making a difference. Our leadership helps move society forward, and that is why we must keep up the struggle so that our daughters and granddaughters may rise even higher. And I promise you, as the Attorney General, I stand with you. So let's stand together to advance a future that embraces representation and diversity in the halls of power. Thank you for your partnership in this must-win fight. I am with you, will always be with you. Happy Black History Month, and thank you.